I don't know, my friend.
What? Well, he just went past me, bro. Like I heard him walking, bro. cold and I'm not cold. I don't even know the the lake train. He literally died twice, 200 damage. Died twice. If you want to... Go main, don't back off, man. What the fuck? Right side.
You're right.
Is he fucking deaf? I didn't hear him? What server is this? Asia server? It is. Fuck! Orange didn't move, dude. Yeah, playing Metal Gear. Ah.
When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. afraid.
It
Just
was
as
so
long
open too. What the hell?
as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me. If the sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, or the mountain should crumble to the sea, I won't cry, I won't cry, no, I won't shed a tear, just as long as you stand by me. And darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand now. Stand by me. Stand by me.
Grab your gear, let's go. Deploying flashbang.
Wait, that was.
Bomb has been planted.
Wait, is it B? Like, what is the guy yellow doing?
Defusing.
Hey, what? Where were you, yellow? What the fuck?
Bomb has been defused. Counter-terrorists win.
Fuck, forgot to get the gun. Gun. Fuck. What are 3 digs? 3 of 1 dudes.
Push, push, push. Throwing smoke.
These fucking people are weird. He got passed through Kodaya guy.
Evan.
Grenade out.
Dance, put that upper belt, put that upper belt.
Can't go B.
Let's go, let's go.
Bro, they didn't defending shit, man.
Incendiary out. Diffusing. Bomb has been defused. Counter-terrorists win.
They are defending shit, bro.
So stay right here is where we end this. Throwing fire. Fire in the hole. Throwing grenade. Throwing flashbang. Smoke. Laying down smoke. Deploying flashbang. Flashbang. Counter-terrorists win.
But my aim fucking sucks right now. AK. Oh.
Move it.
Just disappeared.
Incendiary. Grenade out.
Here, Russia.
Incendiary out. Flashbang. Grenade out. Smoke.
Why would they
Throwing
smoke
smoke.
that, bro? I thought it didn't even have that. I hate train. I'm gonna fucking play this market.
At break of day, in hope we rise. We speak your name, we lift our eyes. Tune our hearts into your beat. Where we walk, there you'll be. With fire in our eyes, our lives alight. Your love untamed, it's blazing out. The streets will glow forever bright. Your glory's breaking through the night.
Could you go back 1000 video? Oh, he won?
Been defused. Counter-terrorists win.
Amen, what? That's 13k. He was 13 guns. That's wrong.
Let's go, let's go.
This type is shit.
Laying down smoke. Fire in the hole. Throwing smoke.
4단계네.
Let's roll.
Wait. You should be watching this instead. Is it Twitch? Twitch. Change display options. 2020. Display options 1920 2019. Changes.
Rough start against a team of the caliber of Heroic. Now, I do want to say there's a reason why they haven't beaten anyone within the top 10, because they don't really play any LAN tournaments. I was looking up the statistics when I got back to the hotel. The RMR was the first LAN event Gamer Legion played this year. They were not part of the Blast group stage. They didn't qualify for Katowice. They didn't qualify for Pro League. They haven't been anywhere. They haven't been nowhere near LAN stage before they got into this major circuits, because that's the reason. They haven't really had the opportunity to do it, and yesterday, they delivered.
And look at the teams they've beaten. We have the very emotional images right here from Heroic, of course. Such a journey. They presented themselves here in Paris as the best team in the world. For my money, or in my book rather, even though I am a pure Vitality fan, I can be honest enough to say Heroic were playing the best Counter-Strike. And after the beating that Heroic put onto FaZe on map number 3, the question was not really would Heroic be in the grand final. The question was who can stop them? Who can stop them? Can Vitality maybe, with the help of the crowd and a grotesque ZywOo, take him down? I don't think anybody was ready for Gamer Legion to be the one taking down these giants.
Yeah, we can't be blind to the fact that Heroic basically had painted their name all over this trophy, because we were looking back to the last major in Rio. They made it all the way to the grand finals, looking convincing every single step of the way, and then they crumbled versus outsiders. We were saying this was the redemption arc for Cadian and company, just couldn't get it done versus the underdog.
This was the one chance, I feel like. We always paint the story when it comes to Heroic that they have the highest floor in competitive Counter-Strike, consistent as ever before. We know what we get when we see Heroic on the server, but we have also questioned their ceiling a little bit. It felt like this major, with so many favorites not coming into play, with G2 being out, with Na'Vi not being part of the playoff, this was the one that Heroic was supposed to win, and they didn't make it happen. So I think that's going to sting the most. They're going to think about this as the one that got away.
I know, but I do wonder if we're not recycling this line now a little bit too much, because it was also the newspaper title all around the world once they've lost to outsiders. You'd say, was that not the one time you would have won a major? When is going to be the next time that you're going to face a team like outsiders to leave the trophy? You didn't make it, you're never going to have another chance. They had a semi-final against Gamer Legion. That's another one of these oopsies. Another one of these you should have done it. And that is going to be hard to swallow if you're Heroic, because the quality of the game game is undeniable. I think from the eye test, they played the best, most polished Counter-Strike, most optimized Counter-Strike we currently have in our circuit, and it still wasn't enough. And the beating on the third map, that took me by surprise extremely.
I think that's, the saddest part of the narrative for Heroic, to kind of be closing out their CSGO chapter, right? Obviously, we demanded more back in Rio. Then they managed to lift the trophy on home soil back at the Blast Premier Full Finals, and we said, hey, maybe they're resurging. Obviously, Stan had to take a leave of absence during the later stages of 2022, but then it comes to those runs to the Grand Finals. We saw it back at Katowice as well, and it's kind of the story for Heroic of always the bridesmaid, never the bride, dare I say?
That's kind of what it feels like, yeah. The 5 players on your screen right here, they have inspired, I would argue, an entire new generation of Counter-Strike players. I brought it up on the desk yesterday as well, matching with Maui Snake, where I spoke about the fact that Heroic is probably the team in the world that have inspired the most people, in the sense that they haven't really got anything to show for it whatsoever. We were in a situation where Heroic took the Counter-Strike game and they were proactive with it. They were re-innovating the way you play Counter-Strike. Everyone is looking towards Heroic. Everyone was trying to copy them, but when you look at the trophy cabinet, they have that one win in Copenhagen, and that's it. Whereas if you look towards FaZe, Na'Vi, sure, they won a lot of trophies, but it wasn't inspiring in the same sense that Heroic have inspired an entire generation of Counter-Strike.
I think they definitely have an imprint on the legacy of CSGO, right? Obviously, we demanded more from them coming into things, but I think Jacob kind of puts it perfectly, right? They've reinvented the wheel when it comes to how we look at CSGO.
I agree with you. Most of us thought that this DNA of Counter-Strike wouldn't work offline. That was pretty much the line. We thought, hey, it's great online. You're never going to make it work online. And I think they have earned our respect for what they've been able to achieve in that context.
Apex versus Team Vitality was the second semi-final going down yesterday. Vitality still managing to keep up their flawless streak, and I think we just have to give props to Apex for making it this far, particularly in that quarterfinal matchup versus Liquid. That was a dominant display to kind of just crush the dreams of North America and Maui Snake, unfortunately, at that.
Yeah, had it not been for Gamer Legion, that would have been the big story, the big underdog going into the semi-final in the form of Apex. I love their story. I've loved seeing them throughout this major so far. We've been close to them in the studios, we've been close to them inside the arena, and it does feel like it's been a family from start to finish.
Yes.
They've had cameras in their face from start to finish. They're doing vlogs after every game. They're really embracing being at the major, and as we spoke about coming into the tournament, no one, absolutely no one expected them to be in the playoff. No one expected them to be in the Legend stage regardless, but the way they played, the way JL have conducted themselves on the server, the way Jake M is back on top, Stuko for that matter as well, making a mini comeback into the tier 1 scene, it's just great to see.
Look, they felt a weakness in Liquid, and we'd all talked about it in the past. The fact that mentality speaking, when it comes to psychology, Liquid could be a team that would fluster a little bit. I think Apex did the most of it. You look at this overpass, you look at the clutch from Nog, and it just puts the NA Dream in the bin. Vitality were a little bit stronger, and I think the first map of that semi-final is a good example. It's the 16-14, but once you get to round 29, 28, and 30, it's actually Vitality who's just passing the shoulder. And once we moved on to map number 2, it didn't really was a question in my head. It's kind of clear that Vitality were going to close it. The first map was where I got a little worried.
Yeah, it was a date with destiny. The Vitality were going to be the eventual ones making it to that grand final, but we have to give some props to your man of the hour, Jacob Kixon, because you've been very impressive with what this in-game leader has been delivering on the server, both in terms of strategies and in terms of his firepower as well.
One of the best signings of any team for a long time. I'm not gonna lie, the way Kixon has come into Apex and made them hyper competitive, sure, you can't credit it all to just him. He has a support staff behind him as well. Kuben, the coach, I think he deserves a lot of credit as well. Mither, the assistant coach, he used to be a tier 1 head coach, but he's been assisting them, so they sort of have had 2 coaches to help them out throughout the entire tournament. And I think that whole family feeling that I've been experiencing, watching and observing in the studios have helped them quite a lot. It seems like a unit, it seems like a project, and it seems like a family that believes in each other, and that goes a long way in Counter-Strike as well.
I'll see if they can pass the test of time. That to me is the one issue with some of these crazy Cinderella runs, is that yes, it all came together here in Paris, and the Counter-Strike you've played was magnificent. You had a couple of individuals popping off. You had an IGL who's suddenly under the spotlight. I agree with you, Jacob, but can you actually sustain the test of time? Can you actually go into different tournaments? And it's going to be hard for them because they're not going to play in such prestigious events for a while. Probably it's going to be a couple of subpar events where we all know it's harder to have the best motivation, but if you want to really pierce through that, you have to do it if you're Apex.
It's the same for Gamer Legion, it's the same for Monty, it's the same for a lot of these teams, because you're right, it is the test of time. This major in itself, if we look isolated at what we've seen so far, it's been fantastic. It's been a major of the underdogs. You should never underestimate underestimate the underdogs. But as you said, the test of time will have to stand. And whether that's going to be in CSGO or Counter-Strike 2, well, we'll have to wait and see.
And Vitality firmly withstanding this test so far. We talked about it yesterday. The only time we have ever seen another team hoisting a major trophy without dropping a map, that was Na'Vi back in Stockholm. Obviously, we don't know the result of the grand final just yet, but Vitality have just been going from strength to strength to strength, and it's amazing to see on their home soil.
It is amazing, and honestly, Frey, you're human. It's normal that your mind goes there. We're all thinking about, hey, any comparison possible, not the same kind of opposition along the way, but still undefeated. And we might just be stepping into the trap that Vitality might step in, which is to imagine yourself already hoisting that trophy, thinking that that game is going to be just ripe for the taking, you're going to have a grand old time. I'm sure Heroic, after spanking FaZe on map 3, we're probably thinking, oh yes, Gamer Legion, not semi-final, yes, let's go, come on! And that didn't pan out, so we have to be real careful with that.
Now, you're not wrong when you're saying Vitality haven't lost a map so far, but they haven't really dominated their opponents either. None of the maps they won so far has been with single digits. All the games have remained somewhat competitive. So while Vitality have this great ability to always win their game, which is what matters the most, of course, take nothing away from that, all these different maps they played so far at this major have been somewhat competitive, somewhat close. So if you're Gamer Legion, you just want to get that game close, and then you have to push it over the finish line to perhaps take the first map away from Vitality.
But that's the thing, we haven't seen Vitality emotionally crumbling whenever anything has got close, and that is such growth, maturity. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. I feel like everything is peaking at the right time for Vitality. Don't want to jinx it, but this is...
You've seen them lose a map? Have we seen them lose a map on the stage and see how they've reacted? They haven't. They haven't lost a single map quite yet, and I don't know how they're going to react if Gamer Legion manage that feat, but that's music for the future.
Well, we will be getting that in the future indeed, but before we do that, it's time to throw things to a short break. When we come back, inching ever closer to that coveted grand final and, of course, our show match.
This is the first time that all these things we've seen drawings of, pictures of, thought of, came up with, all of that is finally coming to life in front of us. We have a tight window, we're going to go in, we're going to build a very big stage. There's very little room for error, and that's why we're using the best people.
Of all the threats, from both your past and future, you've never faced anything like this. Let them come. Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. Watch the trailer now.
The construction phase is the first time where you really see all of these small little elements come together, and I'm really excited for that day, because that's the day where it kind of becomes real. It really just kind of kicks in that, like, we're doing this thing. Everybody's running around, there's stress, there's time pressure, because you've got a day to build, but that's an amazing moment, and that's the moment that I'm excited for.
Often when we build a show, itself, we need some team. They need to sit and play somewhere. They also need to come out. We also knew that we needed to break free of this traditional grind field in Counter-Strike, which was these very sharp angles, straight edges. For this one, we knew because of the rounded general design, we also had to achieve that from a stage design. So some of the first things we did was try to soften up this normally very harsh, pointy, in-your-face type stage, open it up, soften it up, make it more welcoming, and just generally.
Crazy. We've all just played a game in an arena in Paris.
This event something new, something. This is not a Black Premier event. We're creating something completely new. We hope people get really excited by it.
It's pretty much a home run from the exactly like we wanted it to.
in the entire Counter-Strike calendar, and we call it the most prestigious trophy for a reason. It has been a long journey for our remaining two teams to make it here. Some teams have thrived, whilst others have unfortunately failed to survive. We're talking about some of the teams that we were hoping to see gracing this arena, let alone in the grand finals. For the first time in history, we see the reigning major champions of VP unable to make it here.
Yeah, they had quite the experience at the Arma. I don't think I've ever seen a major winning team not making it to the next major, and I've never seen a team make a substitute or a roster change in the middle of the goddamn
That
tournament.
still makes me angry.
It still makes me angry as well. I don't know what the hell happened to Outsiders. I don't know what the hell happened to VP, but making it to the major, that was never in the cards apparently.
I mean, for my money, this was unacceptable. Like the roster switch halfway through, but another heartbreak for you. We go now as well. Unfortunately, not with us here in Paris. We all know the fate destiny that they had, that matchup against FaZe Clan to make it just to the challenge stage. That was heartbreaking. The consequences of your own action, right? You didn't end up in that position because you beat anybody. We have their results right here, and of course, there are a couple of losses. 0-2 to ENCE, 0-2 to G2, BO1 of course lost against Monty. You kind of reap what you sow, right? And at some point, there is only so much we can do to protect the big names. You still have to go through games. You still have to win some of these games if you want to be at the major.
It was the mental collapse we saw in that game against ENCE. The defeat. We saw Shiro in the middle of the game almost lose it, almost started crying when they get down 14-11 on Vertigo, second deciding map. We saw it against FaZe as well. They were up 14-5 matchup, and they completely just collapsed one more time. So it was the full mental breakdown we saw of Cloud9 in the qualifier, and that's what I remember the most.
Yeah, the fact that we heard them saying in Rio, you know, that subsequent event afterwards, they didn't even talk to each other before getting on that plane. They did not discuss that loss, unfortunately.
But I feel like at some point it's going to come out, so you may as well get it out.
It's got to come out.
You know, a team that we didn't see come out, unfortunately, was Astralis. Obviously, maybe it's not so much for a surprise, rather when we're looking at some of the players on this lineup, but the Device is back in that star-studded roster. The fact that we look at this team to be one of the winningest orgs in the entirety of CSGO history. That is why it is a disappointment to see them not even making it to now.
They came into the tournament and we were starting to believe a little bit. They were starting to show progress. They were starting to show decent results at the online. I guess the way I will phrase it and the way I have been saying it for quite some time, for Astralis, it sucks to suck.
That's deep analysis right here. That's why he's getting paid the big bucks. Look, you lose 0-2 to NIP. The scorelines aren't even close. To 4-16 loss on the clear losses on Vertigo as well. And I was very frustrated about it. I'm not gonna lie. I was upset. But I saw how Device was playing. I thought we need to see him at the major. Just for the adventure, just for the arc, just for the redemption of him, you know, moving away. NIP tough time, a bit more open about it. He's been public about what happened at the time. But still, he's got that element of class. He's got that element of uniqueness. Device is not like anybody else. And he's so quick to be back at this great level. You play FlameF, controversial player, but the output is still here. And you're thinking, no way these two players aren't here. No way Exile and Shiro aren't here. But turns out the team is fine. Stars won't be enough. And the problem with some of these teams, and all of them we're going to cover in this segment, is that the key moment in the trajectory of Counter-Strike. We have the end of CSGO that's looming very, very close. This is now. CS2 is around the corner. Player Break is around the corner. It's time to make a change. If you don't like the sofa, it's time.
The fact that Astralis lifted not one, not two, but 4 major trophies in the organization's history, that is why we have such high expectations for what we consider to be one of the greatest in-game leaders and a multi-time winning major MVP in Device.
Listen, there's no doubt that Astralis will go down in history as the greatest team in terms of winning trophies and winning the big ones. No one comes close to that regard, but it's just a bittersweet feeling that they're not going to be at the very last major. I completely agree with you. It sucks right now for Astralis. They are in a time where they need to find a different direction. Some of these moments, some of these trophy moments right here is great memories for me. It's a team that inspired the entire Danish scene, inspired the world of Counter-Strike. We talk about Heroic doing the same thing, but Astralis, it's a long time since we've been excited about them, and I
think a team that we were inspired by throughout basically the duration of 2023 was G2. They were amongst, you know, one of a few handful of names that we were looking at this trophy and saying, hey, they should be looking at not least Nico in his career, here has never lifted a CSGO major trophy, and Matthew, he won't now.
Yeah, and it felt like G2 in a way. You think about the peak they've had towards the end of last year. They repeated defeat in Katowice, one of the most prestigious, hard-fought scenes we have in Counter-Strike. And now I believe that, but for my money, I think that the Challenger stage went too well for G2. And I think as a team, it can be dangerous when you have that, oh, man, we're destroying everybody. Like, we're gonna win this damn thing. And then when you're presented with the first kind of opposition, you don't really know how to handle it. First match they face, Vitality, they lose 13-16. They go on to do exactly the same against Bad News Eagles. So very early, although the quality of the squad is not exactly questioned, of course, when it comes to players, Fuchs is a different debate on his own. But I don't think that mentally they were ready to fight from behind. I don't think they were ready to dig themselves out of holes. I think a Challenger stage was basically an all-inclusive vacation in Tenerife. Just sun, having a good time. That's what it felt like to them.
There's no doubt about it whatsoever. I just want to provide the concept of Dome as well, because I feel people forget very, very quick. They have the second longest map win streak out of any team in the history of CSGO, and they made that happen this year in 2023, combined with the end of 2022. As you said, they won in Abu Dhabi, they won the World Finals over there. They started 23 by dominating everyone. How they played and how they conducted themselves at IM Katowice was absolutely fantastic, and then they fail here without making an impression. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever, and that's why I think it's one of the biggest disappointments I've seen in this major so far.
Another disappointment we have to throw into the ring, unfortunately, is Na'Vi. The fact that we saw them going up against FaZe in what, for my money, was one of the best matches, if not the best match in that Legend stage. The fact that those two teams had to collide, though, Jacob, in that last chance to make it here. Typical FaZe fashion, but for Na'Vi, I thought they'd be making it through earlier.
To me, there's two stories right here. One being Simple, obviously not making the last major playoff inside this arena. I wanted to celebrate Simple. I wanted to see him play. I think everyone did. He couldn't make it with his team. The second side of that coin is that I think this, at least I saw it coming. Na'Vi with Electronic as an in-game leader, I'm not going to pinpoint him and say he's the reason why they're not succeeding right now, but I think this whole situation with how they've dealt with all this, you know, stuff going on in the everything that is going on right now. It's they haven't been able to find a replacement. They have to slot in Electronic as an in-game leader, and ever since we haven't seen Na'Vi play remotely to the same level as they did before whatever happened. To me, that's a bad way to end. And
it was very uncharacteristic. I think in general, when you refer to Na'Vi, one of the first things that comes to mind is how engaged they are in engaging, how hard they are to put away. Right? There are teams over and the opposition of Na'Vi, the contrary, right? And they have so many of these games that happen right here. Think about the game against Liquid. Basically, from start to finish, the game plan went to hell. Then there's the game against Monty, same scenario. The first half was new. They absolutely lost. And this, to me, is a very unique moment to see Na'Vi kind of find themselves struggling with. Key players in that roster have lost faith in the fact that this is going to work, and in kind of lost their ties. They lost their bound between players and just completely went to hell.
Of course, the team that we're talking about knocking them out of making it to playoffs was FaZe Clan, and then they go up to face against the Deadly Danes, or what we thought were going to be the Deadly Danes of Heroic. They did manage to chop FaZe Clan out. It was great to get to see them, making it to playoffs after literally, making it through at the last chance every single time. But faltering to Heroic, unfortunately,
It was a bit of a weird last major for FaZe, because as you said, they weren't even supposed to be here. We had this last chance in Europe, and by then they ended up beating Cloud9, booked a spot into the Challenger stage, where they also struggled, where they also had a tough time. Same for the Legend stage. It's I don't know how to describe it for these guys. FaZe never played their A game. At no point at this tournament did I feel FaZe played good Counter-Strike. They have a certain flaw, they have a certain charisma, they have individuals that can change the tide of a game. You look at Twist, you look at Brokey. Brokey had a fantastic showing